to the world.
Okay. Andy, appreciate your time. Andy, no.
My pleasure.
From Portland, Oregon, but here in the United Kingdom, joining us in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, let's get a different perspective on all of this. We're joined now by Imran Ahmed, who is the Chief Executive of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, and joins us down the line. Very good afternoon to you, Imran. Just first of all, we didn't really explore it there, but clearly a lot of people place part of the blame at what happened last year on social media companies and their role in potentially perpetuating some falsehoods around the election in 2020. What's your sense of what companies like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and others may well have played in that?
Well, I mean, here's what we know. Facebook's business model maximizes radicalization. It increases the volume. It gives a megaphone to hate and misinformation. We know that from the revelations from within Facebook brought forward by the brave whistleblower Frances Haugen. And they do that because it's profitable for them, that angry people who are engaged on the platforms equals eyeballs, which equals ad revenue, and 98% of their revenues come from ads. And we know that they played a part. In short, they turned the dial up to 11 and, to mix metaphors, they blew the bloody doors off. And they've done that both when it comes to the pandemic, when it comes to anti-vax misinformation, which has led to so many people taking catastrophic decisions for their own health and for our national security, our national health security. But also when it came to election misinformation, which flowed, by the way, all the way through from 2016. Let's not forget, there were lies being told about election manipulation. In 2016, if you remember, President Trump said in 2016 that he would have won the popular vote if it wasn't for the fact that there'd been election fraud. And he carried that through for years and years. We knew in advance, in November the 14th, there were violent clashes with the police and far-right demonstrators on the streets of Washington, D.C. So January the 6th came as no surprise to anyone. And for all I thought it was really depressing, the last interview with the Canadian journalist that you had on. Because, I mean, what it misses is that on January the 6th, Donald Trump spoke at the rally. There was a rally that was organized by the architecture that he's put into place to promote the big lie that the election was stolen. It was by the people, the Stop the Steal coordinators, who are known to him, who are friends of him, who are coordinating together at the Willard Hotel down the road from me in Washington, D.C. And so it seems quite remarkable that given all that evidence, he instead is reaching for a conspiracy theory, a theory of his, that in fact the whole thing was a lie, that it was far left protesters who were doing it, and that the courts, Congress, the majority of the Republicans and the media are all complicit in a massive lie to cover up the fact that it was Antifa what did it to the Capitol rather than the people that we saw doing it.
I'm just going to interrupt you there because I must say, Andy's not here now, and he didn't actually say that on this programme. He has said it in the past, but he hasn't said it on this programme. So we should point that out. Let's move away about the rhetoric around what happened. There are clearly people who believe a certain version of events and others who believe others. The big fundamental point is that you've got these two silos, it seems, from the outside of American public opinion, deeply divided. How does that get reconciled?
Well, the first thing is we've got to stop the dial being turned up to 11, and we're going to have to dial it back. And that's a mix of things that have to happen. First of all, I think that the US is going to need some sort of truth and reconciliation process. And whether that can be executed through Congress, through the normal political process, or it's going to require more than just that, require President Biden, for example, and Republicans who are willing to engage in a rational conversation based on objective facts, are able to come together. And I believe that to be true. Look, I was in Congress giving evidence to the House committee a few weeks ago. It is remarkable how aligned both sides are on most of the issues that most Americans care about. But actually, it's the perceptions of division that have been amplified. And in part, look, that election came at the end of a year where we were all separated from each other. We were all under lockdowns all over the world and in the United States. And of course, the information that we were getting was being interpreted through the lens of algorithms, for the main part, through social media. And I think that that has a significant part to play. We saw what happens in an information ecosystem, a world in which information is ordered not by, water cooler conversations, the normal social interactions by which we form our values and our social mores, our attitudes, our behaviors, our understandings of society around us, but instead through the algorithms of social media platforms. And guess what? That world is one that most of us don't really want to live in. It's a terrible place where there's anger, frustration, and violence all around.
And Imran, just finally, moving away from what happened last year to what is happening today, the mumbo jumbo, I think, as Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, described it, when it comes to disinformation around vaccines, having to go with anti-vaxxers today. There is going to be an online harms bill introduced in Parliament here in an attempt to try and address some of the kind of fake news or misinformation that you see online. Where are we at in terms of regulation of some of the big social media companies when it comes to Congress in the United States?
Well, I mean, in Congress at the moment, the problem is that there's about 50, 60 different bills, and there are other initiatives like antitrust initiatives which would break up monopolies, all in play, but there is no leadership. And, I've been critical of the White House, saying that it needs to set the terms. It needs to say, look, this is what we expect to see, to try to cohere all the different initiatives. The UK is in a different place. And, all credit to Her Majesty's government, and I've been working with them and also with the select committee that was scrutinising the bill. I was the first witness to give evidence on that in September. And I think this bill is a substantial and wide-ranging, comprehensive attempt to try to regulate the internet, social media in particular, which we know is creating all these harms in different ways, whether it's privacy or it's security or it is national security and our individual health. And the impact of disinformation and the rampant flow of hate that we saw, for example, around around football last year. And I think that the government is trying to make an honest attempt to regulate fully. There are things it could improve, but we're yet to see the final legislation in March, and we look forward to it.
Appreciate it. That's Imran Ahmed, who's the Chief Executive of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, joining us from Washington, D.C. Lots of you